Hi, Yeadon. This is supposed to be my contribution to the deal room. I still haven't been there. Been out of circulation for a while, but that's a different story. What this is a VBA program, in other words, Excel file with VBA, that creates four legal documents: the LOI, the PSA, the termination of real estate contract, and the COVID addendum. And it also creates three support documents for the user. And everything can be copied and pasted onto their respective templates and words, and we'll get there. It's about 24 pages worth of instructions, and yes, it is recommended to read them before proceeding. So let's get started with a quick tour. This is a data entry sheet. Here's the data entry for the LOI. The data entry for the PSA is right below it, and the COVID addendum is right below it. Now, the COVID addendum will not appear until and unless the PSA is fully filled out and errorless. And we're not going to get into errors today. That'll be some future videos. But I will tell you that it's about 5,700 possible errors just in this page. So the quick tour. That's the LOI, the document. Right below it is the Schedule 1, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And we go to the PSA. There's the PSA. Again, PSA is blank, of course. We go to the termination of real estate purchase agreement. And again, it's blank. We go to critical dates. Of course, it's all blank, 17 of them. With that, we go back to SF dates. And we're going to take a look at the due diligence. And the due diligence is tied into Schedule 1, which, as we saw, was part of the LOI. Let's get back to start filling out the information. We start with the dates and today's date. It has to be today's date. Even if you do it on a Sunday, it'll come out just like that on a Sunday. Then we put in the property name and address. A number of units. We write it out in text for the legal documents. This is basically all this top part information is for the legal documents. Then we go to purchaser's info. What type of entity is it? Where is that entity located? The purchaser's legal representative info, also for the documents, specifically for the PSA. What's that person's title? The address, 2 lines for the address, and the county, borough, or parish it's in. Let's call it an apartment building, and let's use Chicago title. Let's say that it's the seller. And the seller, what's the title of the seller? Again, for the LOI. What's the first name? What's the last name? And what to enter for the legal documents as well. And the address and the city, state, and zip. Let's go back down a little bit so you can see what happens with closing date here. For closing date, that's the first thing we have to fill out. And we go to the days after. Of course, immediately we get our deadline and how many calendar days to go. And we'll take a look at that here once we're all filled out. And let's go to earnest money. And what date was it received by the title company? And the P&S agreement. And with that, the money section appears. We put in the purchase price and we spell it out. This side is just for help. It really has no bearing on the information. You will not get an error if you don't fill it out exactly. In this case, we will. So let's put in that figure in here. And again in text, let's say down payment, but here we're going to differ. We say 20%, but we're actually going to make 24.99% down payment. Again, in text. And what's our first mortgage? Oh, with the 25. There we go. Oh, let's put it in there. The number in text. And there we start with the PSA. What's going to be the execution date? Again, today's date, or else if it doesn't match to today's date, we get an error. The errors are a different story. There's like 5,700 of them possible in this page alone, so we're just going to leave it there. Errors will be in future videos that will apparently be a bit longer than this one. And the effective date. Who's the owner of record? The same guys up above. Timothy Wise. Of course. Oops. What type of entity does he have? What state is he from? And what county does Timothy live in? With that, we go to closing date. And of course, it has to match the same number of days. Again, we're going to do it without error today. That's several videos will follow with all the possible errors. And of course, they must be fixed before you can go on. The financing period, the inspection period, the service contracts. Service contract is the only one that is before closing date. And we have 47 days to go. We have 54, so it's 7 days difference, business days. Then we go to the property info, and then we just fill out all the rest. What's the date received? What is the termination? What is our title objections first? Then what is our cure period? What is our title review period? What is the date received by the purchaser? Title commitment date, calendar days after the execution date, the survey, and the earnest money up top. Then we go to the bottom to finish up, and we're just going to leave the COVID showing here. You see how it appears once we fill out completely here. Then we get the seller default. What's the date received by the purchaser? The purchaser's default. And what day will he or she receive the notification? And we get the COVID addendum. Before we go to the COVID addendum, oh, by the way, the space right below the title of the items, that's pretty much your status bar. So let's go back here, and let's say we put an X, and it has to be an X. And then waiting on date done, waiting on date done, waiting on date done, waiting on date done, and waiting on date done. Right here, as soon as this appears, we can close it right here if we want to. So let's try that real quick. And we put in the closing date, and the PSA is closed all the way out. But before we go to the to closing anything, let's take a look at what happened to the documents. So we go to the LOI, and there's the LOI with all the information we just put in, 4 million, etc., etc. This can be in capitals or this can be in lowercase. So let's see what lowercase does. We just delete it. And it goes to lowercase. So that's an option for the user. And as mentioned, the Schedule 1 is right below it. But we already saw the Schedule 1. And this will all be formatted once we copy and paste it. Speaking of copy and paste, I think I opened the purchase and sale agreement. Let me see. Let's leave the printing. for now. And we go to the termination. The termination also has all the information we put in. Our critical dates, of course, the date of execution, the effective date are done because we filled out the LOI, the PSA. If we hadn't, these dates wouldn't be here. It gives us a number of days. And let's go to, let's see what the addendum says. A COVID addendum. There's the COVID addendum. And nothing has changed, so let's change that a little bit just for grins. Let's say, what do we have? We have 54 days for the closing date. So let's add 6 days to make it a nice round number. 6 days, we get the new closing date. Of course, we get 60, and we get 60 as well. Okay, and here, what happens here, let me show you. Too many things at once. Way too many things. So instead of 6 days, we just put in the date. Let's see what the addendum says. The addendum says for an additional 6 days until that date. But if instead of putting in the day's number, we just add the date, we have 19th September. So let's delete that. And let's put in 9/19. And it tells us how many days, but now the addendum doesn't say what. Oh, there's an error right there. Anyway, it still needs just a tad of polishing. So let's take that out and see what happens as the days progress, right? So we go here, and we have 54 days, 22, 22, 29. So let's add 1 day. And now we have 53. I'm looking at the closing date, right? 53, 52, 51. They all go down, right? So we continue. And let's see what happens if we expire one of these things. By the way, they can all be copy and pasted to their respective templates. I don't have them open, but it tells you paste to LOI template. And the same with the PSA. Let's see, we say just copy to paste. It tells us paste it to the PSA template. And once we're through pasting it, we come back here and we finish it. Let me see if I do have it open. Do I have it open? No, I don't. Okay. We go to the index. Oh, by the way, the PSA can be printed out in 8.5 by 11 or in legal size. The same thing, right? And it can also be, it's pasted to the legal, and hopefully you have legal size paper in your printer. You say copy to paste, just like with all the others. You say, no, let's finish that. So we finish it. So let's go back to where we were in SF dates. We're down to 47 days. Here we go, 7. 7 is the closest one. So let's expire survey. Actually, look what happens. These are the enders. Of course, termination, cancellation of agreement, the seller default, and the purchaser default. We have 22 days and only 10 here. Well, what we can do, let's reduce those dates. Let's put in July 31st. See how many days we get. Oh, it's a weekend. It's a weekday. So let's go to the 1st of August. It precedes the effective date, and it tells you right here, this is your effective date. It cannot be sooner than okay. So we have August 5th, 5, And we have 22 days. That's way too much. Let's go after this one. If we use, okay, no. Here, 28 July. Let's go 7 days to expire something. And once one of the non-enders, actually, I'm getting confused here. We go back to SF dates, and let's say termination by purchaser, and we fill in the date, 9/2. So, purchaser terminated, can't do anything. Your documents are all grayed out because it expired. Purchaser was terminated. Okay, we go back, and instead of purchaser terminated, we say, okay, let's cancel the agreement. 8/15. It's the agreement. Now that's canceled. But it's the same thing with the documents. If it's canceled or one of the four enders, that's it. It's done. You can't, well, you can print it, of course, but what for? But if instead of that, we go and say, well, let's finish that exercise. 8/19, and the seller defaulted, or let's go to the purchaser default in the same date, 8/19, which is only fair, right? So you have that done. The purchaser is defaulted, and you can't do anything else about it unless and until. By the way, the rule is do not alter or enter data in grayed out or whited out entry cells. I could block them, but it takes up a huge amount of memory to actually block the cells. So that's why we're just covering them. So let's delete that, and let's start saying, you know what? The earnest money was done. Let's put in the date, 8/19, and earnest money is done. And let's do the survey as well. And you have to put in the next. If you put in something else other than the next, well, in most cases it'll go blank. Not in all of them. But let's go ahead and finish that. And it's for August 8/4. Let's do the title commitment as well. Put an X in there for that to appear. And again, we say 8/8. Then we do the title review period. And let's say, well, that's done too. If we don't do it, it just tells us it's waiting on date done. So we go back here and say, 8/17. Sorry for the length. I thought it was going to be quicker. But in any case, it's really a lot of fun to work with. Once you get the hang of it, there's no reason why not to finish in about 20, 30 minutes. And you have your 4 legal documents and you have your 3 support documents. So this would be 8/12. And after 8/12, let's say, well, the cure period, that's also done. That was 8/26. And then if we come up and we say, well, but then it is now, let's terminate it. Even though you have all those filled out, if you terminate it, whoa. Well, let's see what happens with 9. No, that's not. That's not the time for errors. 9/2. Okay, there. Purchaser terminated. There's another error right there. So instead of that, we delete that. And let's say, well, I want to close it. Close the deal. And we say 9/13. And it's done. And of course, the ones that are the items that are both in both documents can be closed from either end, right? So let's go back to the top and we say, no, let's delete that. Let's delete that. And let's do it up top. Oh, we do it up top. 913. 913. And we have the same result. The PSA is closed. There's another error. Okay. So that's basically what it does. Oh, the expiring. Where was I? Well, with 7 days. Oh, we did it in PSA. Actually, let's do the financing period too. Where's the financing period? Financing period is, oh man. Financing period, right here. So we say X and a 12. And we go to the LOI, and the LOI tells us it's done. It's done. And finally, the inspection period. Let's have all 4 of them done below. Inspection period. Where are you? Here you are. Inspection period. And a 12. We have the whole suit done up on the LOI. If, on the other hand, we say no, let's do the earnest money up top in the LOI. Earnest money, 819. And it tells us you're done here. And it tells us here it's done in LOI. Let's delete the financing and the extension period. The inspection rather. Financing period and extension. We delete that. And again, we go back to the top. Did I delete them both? Nope. Financing period is not done. It's still there. So let's delete the financing period. With the video recording software, it's really slow. And that's why it looks a little bit awkward. But instead, we're going to do it here. 812 and 812. And that is reflected. Earnest money is done in LOI. The inspection period and the financing period are both done in LOI. So that's basically what it does. It's rather complex to understand at first, but even though we can come here, let's say, and we close it. So there's another error. I still have about 30 hours worth of fixing this, and it's about 840,000 Excel formulas altogether so far. 842 last count. So once we finish everything, you want to get it ready, you can save it right there, or you can go to start, and in start you can say save as something else. So we go back. It says updates. It says, well, we already did that and I already copied it somewhere else. I already saved it as something else. So let's clear the board. But keep in mind that clearing the board does not clear the due diligence or the Schedule 1. It just clears, this is the board, right? The LOI, the PSA, and the COVID addendum. And it takes a while because that thing is the recording videos there. So we were right back to where we started from. And of course we go to start, and it doesn't say anything else other than the property name. And that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.